And I think we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the GMS Magazine Vidcast podcast live, which this is what we're going to do today because we haven't been able to do for a little while. Hello, Chris. How are you doing, mate?
Hello, Paco. How are you? We did do an episode last week. We just didn't do it live.
No, well, that's very true. And we didn't do one the week before because I wasn't feeling very good. I know because I had guests. So
you had friends. You had peeps.
See, some people may choose not to believe it, but I do have friends. Not very many, thank God for that. I just want the good ones, not very many ones. But I do indeed. Humans, this is a podcast all about board games, role-playing games, and the people who make them. And of course, the people who listen to this podcast, because you are amazing. If you're hearing some buzzing, just so you know, that is my computer trying to survive a live streaming. Because last week, it kind of died on us, the poor little thing. It overheated quite badly.
And is it okay now?
I think so. It's just that I am not reducing the sound coming out from it. So basically, I'm letting the the ventilation do its thing, so I don't kill what it is, a very expensive laptop, because I'd rather not have to buy another one if I can help it.
No kidding.
So
I had a very interesting day. So I got a list of things that I've been on admin because I finished one chapter on Amethyst and I'm bringing on a partner, and so we're talking about all the things that we're doing. And I'll mention it now. Like, we're launching another Kickstarter in late May, and we're working on the preliminary stuff now. It's a reprint of Ultramodern, just doing a second printing, but we're doing 6 modules, 6 adventures and campaign settings that are going to be going along with it. And I've been talking with my guy, and I'm working on 2 of the modules. He's doing the remaining 4. So he's doing a lot of that work, so I can focus on Amethyst, and then we can technically hold. Because I couldn't handle a second Kickstarter until all the writing on the first one was done, and that's why, where some companies will do 3 Kickstarters a year, I could only do 1. And now with William on board, who's a game guy, game designer, and a chef, and a butcher, and a restaurateur, and a menu writer.
Jesus, how does he have time to do anything?
Sometimes I wonder, but he's designing, he's running this campaign, and he's running the adventures. I'm doing 2 adventures, one called Threshold, which is a sci-fi horror campaign setting, and one which is called the Retroverse Chronicles, which is an alternate 1980s Earth that is about unbridled imagination. Anything you can think can happen will happen in this setting. And then working with William, we are creating 4 more adventures, a Weird West one called The Phantom Stage, another sci-fi horror called Echoes of Noah 94, a cyberpunk heist adventure called Clonefall, and a somewhat goofy adventure that is set in a giant Walmart called Madness at the Megalomart, which basically involves a giant big box retailer getting sent to hell, and then the people within, trapped inside the Megalomart, have to survive with just their wits and whatever they can find in aisle 9. So that's basically those are the 6 adventures, and those are the new items that we're offering with the Ultramodern reprint. So that's the only thing that we're working on. And unfortunately, I got some unfortunate news from most of my backers got their Affinity books, but unfortunately 2 of them came over saying they got the wrong rewards.
Oh dear! Did they get more than they paid for?
No, they got less. If it was more, I'd say, well, congratulations, you got yourself a bonus. But they paid for luxury leather, and they got the standard edition. And unfortunately, I know that from a good practice, what the backer should do is reach out to them, say, here's a RA return authorization, here's a prepaid waybill, ship it back to us. We will ship you the leather edition once we know that you've shipped the replacement, and it will all be covered by us. That's what I hope this company does, because that's good business practices. What I'm worried is them telling me I have to front the bill for their mistakes. So we'll see.
Well,
We'll see.
fingers crossed for that. Actually, I have a kind of an experience recently with something very, very similar, because I bought, I'm playing the Dragonlance, Shadow of the Dragon Queen campaign right now
Mhm.
on Thursday. So I decided to treat my friends to the deluxe edition of the adventure, which comes with a game called Champions of Kreen, and that
Is it
has
green or crin?
Kreen. I don't know, Kreen. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm
I always thought
Spanish.
it could be crin. I thought it was always crin, but maybe I'm wrong.
What's the
People
difference?
can people can post in the comments whether or not it's crin or crean.
What's the difference?
Well, pronunciation. It's like, do you call that character from Star Trek: The Next Generation Data or Data?
Data, of
We call him
course.
Data. Exactly.
But that's what the word is pronounced. But
Oh no no no.
no. Oh, we're gonna get into one of these GIF or GIF situations, aren't we? Um, no, listen, it's data and that's it. And it's also aluminium. It's not aluminum. Get over themselves, Americans. Thank you very much. Anyway, what happened is that thing comes with the board game. Don't look at me like that. The board game, the adventure, so the hardcover book, and a GM screen personalized for Dragonlance, which is great because it comes with all the draconians and everything. Uh,
Mm.
however, however, my screen was incorrectly assembled. So
Oh.
if you look at the players facing illustration the right way up,
Hmm.
all the contents facing the GM are upside down.
Ah.
Very irritational, that is. So I wasn't sure what to do. I mentioned it on Twitter. D&D Wizards said sweet FA about it. So I'm guessing they didn't see my tweet. Um, but I did reach the Dungeons and Dragons, the Wizards of the Coast customer service. They replied pretty much right away. Then they replied saying we have a highly number of people, making tickets for claims and so on and so forth, which I thought, I'm guessing I'm not the only one. And then a few days later, they sent me an email saying, usually we would ask you to return the product to us, but we don't think it's necessary this time, so don't worry about it. We're going to send you a replacement GM screen for you to enjoy with your friends. Which I thought, okay, that is very nice. I haven't received it yet, but then it's coming from the United States. So we'll see. I hope they're not going to put that thing is costing anything at all. Otherwise, I will have to pay taxes on it. And then I will be really annoyed. So no values. Okay, Wizard of the Coast, are you listening to this? You should. I bloody hope so. Do things right this time, not like you do with the Summit. So yeah, that's my experience with customer support these days.
Mm. I've had ups and downs with customer support. I've never really had any issues with RPG customer support. Not that I've actually had any problems. There was one time where I just randomly got a book from Drive Through RPG though.
It's
They
happened to me exactly the other way round. I have randomly not got a book from Drive-Through RPG, literally, that I ordered something and I didn't get it. Mind you, that was throughout the worst of the pandemic times with all
the,
sorts of
the
things.
the irony about mine though is that um, the book I got
Hmm.
was not like, because obviously there's thousands and thousands in print on demand stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but what I ended up getting was a well-known game from a designer that I would eventually be on it was kind of a podcast group chat for a convention. Once again, during the pandemic, so conventions were all virtual. So we had a virtual panel. I guess it would be actual terminology. And this guy was there, and I was like, "This guy's name's familiar." And I was like, "1 second." I went, grabbed this book I randomly got, and go, "I have this book. This is yours." He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Oh, you ordered it?" Like, "No, I didn't. It literally just magically got sent to me. I don't know who sent it, but I have your book." It was just quite funny. But yeah.
Okay, so sorry, I was playing with something in my fingers and it just blew away. Now I have a couple of things before we go. Well, one thing before we go into the meat of today. I have read now for the second time the rule book from the Blade Runner starter set.
Oh.
Yep, twice. And I am mighty impressed with
Yeah.
Free League's system to the point that I am considering asking my friend Chris Sims if we can do something, but using that system. We were talking, Chris and I, who was in Valencia recently, we were talking about adapting the mage. You know, the
Classic White Wolf game?
Yeah, that's the one. The magic system to the Year Zero engine, because it would fit beautifully. And the more I think about it, the more I think it's one of the most flexibles in a good way systems I know. Because you can do an awful lot of things with BRP or with D20 or with Fate or with PBTA or even with Savage Worlds. But the thing is that you can add or subtract things from those systems, but you can't really transform them into something else to actually fit the theme of the game that you're playing. Whereas with the GR engine, the GR Zero engine, if you're playing epic fantasy like you're doing Forbidden Lands, that system can be mega super hyper epic with tons of dice pools that you can use to create absolutely unbelievable effects. If you're playing Alien, which uses the same system, you can actually change it. So having the same core mechanics, it really adds up to the whole fear, stress, and lethality of the system. Now I am reading it with the Blade Runner, and it's so quick, so much quicker, and yet maintaining this unpredictability and this toughness that the system has with the very same mechanics. So I really am enjoying that system an awful lot. I'm warming up to it even more than I was before. So very, very highly recommended. Also, the Blade Runner game is probably the only game I know that uses empathy as a core ability, as a core skill.
Well, you'd have to. Like Blade Runner, from the setting perspective, empathy is actually literally mentioned in the movie. Because a void conf test, which is used to weed out replicants, is actually known as an empathy test. And so by testing a replicant's empathy, you can determine whether or not they are human or not.
Correct. But considering that it is a word that some people in the right side of politics have tried to demonize recently, I find it absolutely hilarious that a game we feared was going to be you playing a cop trying to catch a being just trying to exist, like is a replicant. Because in the movie, at the end of the day, replicants are just that. They're just beings who didn't choose to be there, didn't choose to be born or created the way that they were created, and yet they were hunted by these Blade Runners just for being what and who they were. And I thought the game was going to be that, and it is not. It is not at all.
It would be very weird for them to focus on the literal definition of the setting and not deal with the stories that the setting provides.
Correct.
It'd be weird, because it'd be like, well, it'd be like setting a story in the 1800s and then focusing entirely on the characters being slavers. I'm like, I think you missed the point. I want to play a Wild West setting. The last thing I want to do is to be, it's one of those situations where like you're focusing on the wrong part of the setting if you're focusing.
The thing is, they do focus on the Blade Runners because you play as a Blade Runner, but
morality, it has to be part of the setting.
Well,
that's
it is
part of the story.
And very cleverly enough, they have placed it long enough after the initial film, so replicants are not these beings that die 2 years on. They can
Well,
go
which
on
film
and
is
live.
it? Is it set well after the first film or well after the second film?
Well after the first film, but before the second. So
Oh,
it is
so it's
that period
actually
in between.
so they can't really go off on their own tangent storyline because they have to answer. Because the other thing about 2077, for those people who don't know, there is actually a lot of framing fiction that was made before that takes place between the 2019 of the first film and the 2077 of the later film. For example, there are 3 short films that were made live action that are prequel stories that are set before, and then there's an anime you can watch, which explains why the setting of 2077 is like that. Because there's a very, very big, there's 2 big events that happened between the events of the first film and the second one. One is the collapse of the Tyrell Corporation and the purchase of their assets by the corporation that's presented in the second one. And then the second one was this incident where there was some massive electromagnetic pulse that wiped out the computer systems and data banks worldwide. It's one of the reasons why so many replicants managed to get into hiding, because all the records about them got wiped. They mention it only in passing. In the Blade Runner 2077 movie, they mentioned this incident because the guy talks about the fact that because everything was digital, he has no photos of himself as a child because they were all wiped out in the purge. And so that's an event that occurs between the events. So it'd be interesting to read this and see how they got all their ducks in a row for it.
Well, I have to say, I am thus far really pleased with it. I'm right now rereading The World because I tend to, if I don't read things twice, new role-playing games, I really struggle if I'm going to play them. If I'm not going to play them, I just get the gist of it and that's it. But if I'm going to play, I want to read them. I want to read it twice. And I really am having a massive blast with it. So expect a full review in maybe a couple of weeks.
Have you ever played because Blade Runner has been so ubiquitous within geekdom, it's not terribly difficult for people to have homebrewed Blade Runner. I have been in a homebrew Blade Runner game as a player, but I've also created a homebrew of Ghost in the Shell. That's another topic. But have you ever played the Blade Runner video game from the late 90s?
Yes, I did. I have very, very fond memories of the game. And I played it twice, trying to get more than one different ending.
And that's tricky. For those people who don't know, the Blade Runner game by Infocom, but the Blade Runner game is extremely noteworthy because it randomizes certain aspects of its storyline. And so when you test somebody if they're a replicant or not, you still don't know if they are when you play it. So if you played the game through once and turned out they're a replicant, they may not be. Likewise, your identity as a replicant was also up in the air. And so as a result, the game had, whenever we talk about games having multiple endings, sometimes it's just a slideshow or a slightly different bit of dialogue. Blade Runner has 3 entirely different last acts, like the entire last act, which is considerably different. So there is a plot point where you chase after the replicants that you were chasing from the beginning of the game. And then there's one where you just ignore them and you go off on a completely different tangent in order to save this one character. A person who's an ally becomes an enemy. It's fascinating. It's not a visually arresting game because all of their stuff is dialogue based. There's very few. There's like 3 pre-rendered cinematics. That's about it. And everything is basically with 16-bit graphics because that's what you did back then.
Yes.
But from a storyline perspective and the audio, they had gotten all of the living actors back to record dialogue. And most of them were still alive. So with the exception of Harrison Ford, they got all of the original actors to come back and do voices. It's really fascinating that they got Joe Turkel and Brian and all these guys. to come back and redo dialogue. It's actually really fascinating.
It is. It was, as I said, a very, very good game. So that's been my RPG reading of the moment, and I have to say once again, thus far, super highly recommended. I am enjoying myself a lot with Blade Runner.
Well, that's it.
And then when I finish this, I am going to read the whole core book. Because I bet it's going to have a few things. And I'm very curious about something. The starter set comes with a deck of cards. And the deck of cards has some chase maneuvers for when you are on foot, on a wheeled vehicle, or on an aerial vehicle. Because you have to choose an evasive and you have to choose a maneuver in secret, and then you reveal them. And that gives a bit of an interesting twist as to how chases go. Then you roll your dice, and whoever gets the highest number of successes runs away or gets closer, depending on whether you are the pursuer or the pursued. So it is very interesting, and I'm wondering, because the starter set, of course, comes in a box and it comes with a deck of cards. The core rulebook does not. So I wonder how they do that kind of chasing without the cards. What are the mechanics for that?
Are the cards bespoke?
Yes, they are.
Oh, okay. So it's not like it uses like Malifaux, for example. You it's like, oh my god, I need a deck of cards. They're like, no, you just get any form of 52 deck playing cards, and you can adapt it to your system.
No, you can do that with any deck of cards for the initiative system, which literally you give the players one or more cards, depending on how many they're entitled to get, and they can decide in what order those cards they're going to play. So the highest goes first, and then the GM takes a card for the enemies, and whatever's left, that's what they're going to get as the initiative. So it's the same system as the Blade Runner, as in the Forbidden Lands, Mechatron, Mutant Year Zero, and Alien, which are the games I've played from Free League. So
I really need to.
So there you go. I'm going on a Free League spree at the moment, because then I have the Vesen RPG to read as well. I'm really looking forward to that one. Free League seems to be doing everything perfect.
Yeah, they do. They do. They got a good brains on them, and they're definitely doing. And of course, they have these IPs to prove it too. So
yeah, they're good people. So there you go. So anyway, let's go on to our topic for tonight, which is going to be all about crowdfunding, but in 2 or 3. Are we going to go on to the first one for just a few minutes?
Yeah, let's go on to the first one. We'll go on to the one you want to talk about first.
Well, no, because I think we need to get this one out of the way. So, are board games fading? No. Why did you ask that? Because this came from you, so why did you ask that? I don't think so.
Well, the reason why I brought it up is, well, to be perfectly honest, I am seeing fewer and fewer people talking about them. And this is something I say, like we like Geek and Sundry's Game to Game is gone. You know, we lost Tabletop. Rado just does his previews of his podcast. No pun included. They're down to one video a week. Shut Up and Sit Down have greatly reduced their output because 2 of the leaders are doing another channel right now based on video game journalism. And even the Dice Tower. It seems like they used to be able to put out they put out a new board game review every day, and their output has considerably dropped, and they're focusing more on their live streams and their board game breakfasts. And you know, I see very, very little content. And on top of that, whenever people talk about how excited they are about certain games, I'm not seeing that same type of hype. Like, I'm not seeing the Wingspan hype. But we had the last game, like the only game that anyone got excited about last year was, in my opinion, Arc Nova. And I don't hear anyone talking about Arc Nova anymore. And it's one of those situations where what's the current game everyone's talking about? And the funny thing is, I don't see that type of coverage. Mm-hmm. So I'm not saying our board game is dying. I'm curious whether or not they're starting to fade.
No.
Because, like I said, right now on the hotness on Board Game Geek, Frosthaven, which is a 2-year-old game, is on the
Okay.
top 5, and the games that are ahead of it, Cascadia, Earth, Hegemony, and Fractured Sky, I know little to nothing about, and I don't see a lot of coverage talking about them. So it's one of those situations. It's an entirely. I don't have any scientific evidence. It's just been my personal observation that I'm not seeing as many people.
Okay.
And as it is, in my search circle, I'm having more problems trying to get people together.
Okay.
More people playing D&D.
Okay, let me intercede you there, because I think two things are happening, which I've been finding interesting for the last few months, not just recently, but for a little while. Firstly, I don't see that much of the cult of the new as I used to see when I started doing videos and podcasts.
Yeah.
In the past, I would see a game being talked about a week or two after release, and then it would be forgotten completely and taken over the next cool thing that came out.
Yeah.
And that thing will be talking about for a couple of weeks, and so on and so forth. So you needed to really hit it big on launch to be able for the game to survive.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing that as much as I used to. Both the Facebook groups that I follow and Twitter and some of the podcasts I follow, they are quite happy to talk about games that have been out for a year or 2 or 3 or 4, just because it's the time when they have played it. I think we have had such a huge amount, such saturation of games coming out that we have bought and we've never opened, that we are not buying that many anymore, and we're actually playing the games that we actually have. And I think that is a good thing, to be honest. I think that's great. And the second thing, the reason why I think you're seeing fewer and fewer media videos being released is because I reckon people are starting to realize that the pace that social media has forced media creators to take is untenable.
Unsustainable, yeah.
Completely. It's just not possible. You can do things, for instance, there's somebody I follow who I respect immensely, Cypher of Tyr. She's fantastic, and she is constantly producing stuff on Twitch. Constantly. She's huge, she's very good at it, and she's on it all the time. That is her job, to produce content for Twitch and other platforms, among other things, because she's now also writing for a video game company, and she does an awful lot of things on the side, but that is her job. So
yeah,
it is very hard to live up to that. Really, really difficult. And even if you do, which is, I think, the most problematic thing, there is no guarantee that you're going to get a return on the effort that you put into producing content. Because you have absolutely no guarantee that Google or Twitch or Vimeo or Twitter or whoever is going to reward you enough to make it worth your while. In the past, you knew that if you released 3 videos a week, YouTube would put you out there to enough people to help you grow.
And now it's so much harder to monetize stuff on YouTube.
Correct. Now, it's no longer the case. Now it just doesn't happen, because YouTube doesn't help creators.
Yeah.
Prince Gastronome, sound off in the comments of your opinions.
That's me.
Oh, sorry.
That's
okay.
Me.
Oh, right. Sorry.
But that's my food and car page, and it's by default. My company page is my alt, so that was on me. It's like, hey, well, everyone's sounding comments because we're going to talk about stuff that will definitely involve you. Okay, so
I thought my sound was off for a second, so I was worried because we've been at it for a bit of time. Okay.
Oh no, I checked. I think when we started, people can definitely hear us.
Good. So that's what I think is happening. I think people, our creators are realizing that it's just too hard to monetize. And what is the point to continue when you can make more money out of going onto Patreon, like no pun intended does? I think they get about £4,000 a month or something.
Yeah.
So why bother? You might as well devote yourself to that community who is actually feeding you, and well enough than to go onto YouTube, who arbitrarily changes their algorithm, philosophy or policy, and from one day to the next you become nothing because they are not showing the videos to the right people. So why would they ever bother to do that? And I can understand it. Monetizing, making a living out of monetizing YouTube is incredibly hard. You need an awful lot of views, and YouTube doesn't help. So why bother? So I think that is what we're seeing now, that people concentrate on, if Rado, for instance, sells a preview for, I don't know, $500, you have any idea how many views he has to get in YouTube to get $500? That's an awful lot of views.
Well, my Gastronome channel, for example, like I have my Deus Ex Machina channel still hasn't breached 1,000 subscribers. It's view time. So if you want to monetize your channel now, you need 3 things: no strikes, X amount of hours viewed per month, and a certain number of subscribers. I have 2 channels, and I have satisfied all of these, but not on the same channel. So my Deus Ex Machina has all the viewing time, but my Gastronome channel has all the subscribers. So I have 1.3 thousand subscribers on Gastronome, and so if I could combine these, then I could monetize my channel. But even then, it wouldn't be by much.
Well, but the thing is, even if you monetize your channel, trust me, you're not going to be getting an awful lot. I have my channel monetized.
Oh, no pennies.
No, exactly. I have my channel monetized. I have about 3,400 subscribers, which is tiny. And I make about between 10 and 12 euros a month.
Yeah, back in the old days, back when I first started my channel, anyone can monetize. Anybody could monetize for any reason. And so I would make literally pennies on my own channel, because back then I didn't have a lot of subscribers. But I was like, oh, I made 25 cents. Whee! And now you have to cross certain thresholds. It's very, very, very. It's much more. It's almost point that if you're new, it's very difficult. Basically, only legacy people can basically make their money because they've gotten their subscribers.
Exactly.
So it's very tricky. It's very tricky.
It is very tricky, or you have to produce a huge amount of content and hit a particular nerve. I have another mate, Seth Skorkowski. He's been at this for about 5 years, and he's gone well over 100,000 subscribers.
Nice.
He's done very, very well. But he's managed to hit that nerve that people actually like by creating some very cool characters, very interesting videos. He's managed to get the right content for YouTube to actually want to put you out there. It is very difficult to get that. You need a special type of talent to do it. And
also drive too. A lot of people have to understand, you have to work at it. You can put out a ton of work. You can put so much energy, and then you have to then wait, and then you have to advertise. Like, a lot of people want that viral hit. They want to put a little bit of work, become viral, and then build their channels. Like, that doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. And I'll tell you how I know that is because you can have a video. I mean, if you want to go viral, you just have to be controversial. That's it.
Yeah.
Do something as simple as going against somebody like Critical Role, for instance. And believe me, your video will go bananas. Trust me, it will go bananas. That
really?
video,
I'm not a huge fan of them. I could have just gone against them publicly, and that's it.
Yeah, trust me, because I once made a video. I've done 2 videos about Critical Role. One praising them, and that did incredibly well. One criticizing them for a faux pas they had, and that is still doing a lot better than the previous one, because people like to see bad things rather than see good things.
Point.
And it was just because I said, it would be nice if they apologized for something that they have done, a joke that somebody didn't think was funny. And boom, People just hated it, and the amount of abuse and horrific comments I got at the time, it was like, Jesus, you're all mental. So you really, seriously, this is genuine advice. People, you really want your channel to grow? Go against somebody who is very popular and much loved, and you'll see your channel. You see that video.
You may not get the traffic. You may not. You have to understand the comments you're getting. Like, my issue with Critical Role is not to do with them as people or any specific thing. I just find they present an unrealistic depiction of what people should expect from a role-playing game. Whenever someone tells me, "Oh, Critical Role is exactly how I play," I'm like, then you are part of the 0.1% of people that run their games that way. Because as someone who's been role-playing for 40 years, I can tell you that is not true. That is not an accurate representation of gaming.
Well, the thing is, I've had this conversation before, and that doesn't bother me particularly because they are entertainment. So I don't think they should be. I don't think they are under any obligation to play like anybody else. If that's how they play, that's it. And I don't think that is an inaccurate way of representing how games are played, because that's how they play. And some people play like that. It is uncommon, probably, but then every table is different. So I don't see the criticism that that's not how you play usually around the table. Fine. I don't think they should be playing like anyone else. They play the way they do. It's working for them. I don't watch them very often, but what I have watched, I think is good enough quality. It's not something that I would watch for hours or listen to for hours, but I think it's good enough quality. So I cannot criticize them for that. I cannot join.
That was the endorsement. Critical Role, good enough.
Yeah, I think they're good enough. I think, they do really well. It's okay. I don't know. It's just that I don't go mad about not just Critical Role, but pretty much any actual play production. It's just not my thing.
Yeah, and I do have people that are supporting me, like Lamplighters, which is a smaller channel. They've done some work with me, like they've done Ultramodern. So I've definitely had a good experience with them, with people who do that. And like for me, whenever someone asks me what's the most realistic depiction of a gaming session and the chaos of a gaming session, that's the reason why I like Spencer Crittenden from Harmon Quest, is because he's an honest to God GM first, and he became an entertainer through his gaming, rather than somebody who was a voice actor who learned, who got into D&D. But that's another. Like I said, that's going off topic. But yeah.
Okay. So well, that's I think that's my answer. I don't think that games are fading. I think game media is indeed fading, understandably, because as I said, it is very, very hard to keep up with the demands of platforms. Instagram recently went on, they changed their policies, and now if you really want to grow and go big, you have to publish 6 times a day or something stupid like that. They really have shot
Really?
Yeah, it is brutal. They've shot themselves in the foot big time, and TikTok has used that to say, oh, don't worry about it, that's fine. Now you can just post one photograph. We will add a little bit of audio to it, and people can read the description as well. So now TikTok can be Instagram. So don't bother with Instagram. So it's a bit, okay, I'm up for that.
Yeah, TikTok is, unfortunately, despite what anyone complains, they're doing a lot. I actually had a conversation with someone who was telling me, like, he's a very intelligent guy, but he was telling me about the immorality of TikTok, and they lectured him about the fact that he was on Facebook, on Twitter. I'm like, dude. And he went on to tell me, like, well, China's guilty for this, and that. Like, it's like Facebook, like these companies, Twitter and Facebook, have literally sold private information to terrorist groups. Don't tell me about China's.
Exactly.
It's like he was guilty, cast the first stone.
I mean, it's been proven time and time again how much media has been manipulated within Facebook during election times by foreign countries, not just by the United States of America, but for foreign countries. So please don't at me with TikTok, because it is no worse than any other platform. So piss off with that. Simple as that. Okay, so let's go to the next topic.
Next one.
Yes. And you said, oh, obligations of Kickstarter backers? Well, best practices. Let's go for
best practices.
Yes, I like that.
This prompted a situation where somebody had made a comment where they were. I'm going to see if I can find it here. If I can't find it in a few seconds, I won't waste people's time on it. But it was a report about. Oh, there he goes. That was easy enough. It was somebody making a comment about their unfortunate experience with Kickstarter. And they were talking about how they're being soured by Kickstarter because they didn't get the rewards. And the response he got was, "Thank you for contacting us. I've checked with your pledge and noticed that you have not confirmed your pledge. As the factory only produces confirmed pledge rewards, I am afraid that the rewards were not produced for you. We can offer," and they went and say, "We can offer you a refund with the processing fee because they don't get as much money. Like, we can't give you a full refund because we didn't get all the money that you sent us, or we can transfer your credits to another project." And some people have been commenting, some people have been agreeing, but there's been a few people within there going, "This is on you." And this is one of those situations where whenever I talk, because I've with Amethyst and with Affinity more than Ultramodern, my Kickstarters, I got a bit more grief from people being angry about things I had no control over. And then, of course, dealing with the Naylor Games buying off Subterra 2, and people trying to respond to it. And the thing that got my attention, Naylor Games said, and this is almost part of the news, that they will honor the Subterra Kickstarter, which means backers are still going to get their rewards.
Wow, that is impressive, because that's going to cost them a ton of money.
Well, yes and no, because they got the stock, they got the IP, and they got the stock for the IP. All they're asking for people is they're going to have to pay for shipping again. And for me, I'm like, done deal. You kidding me? A new company that's doing this, something they don't have to do, absolutely. But a few backers are like, no, I will not accept this, and they're threatening about dragging the new company's name. I go, they are not obligated to do anything. They're offering to do something, and so I was commenting the fact that they're not under any legal obligation to honor this previous Kickstarter, and they are not obligated to sink tens of thousands of dollars shipping out games for backers that they didn't get, for product that they're not making any money for. Like, these companies aren't made of money. Like, they're not Asmodee. And I can guarantee you big companies like Asmodee would not honor a situation like that because they're a big company. So this was a huge thing for them. And when people were talking, I started thinking more and more the fact that we have all these videos about best practices. Jamie Segmeyer has a whole blog series about how to run good campaigns. We talk about how to make your campaign attractive, stretch goals, rewards, and so forth. And at the end of the day, it's sometimes like that, we haven't really held the backers to any farm. It comes to a point where they get to say, recently, Kickstarter has allowed moderation in their comment thread, which some people, the backers, have gotten upset about because technically, you can filter out the nasty comments. And I, for one, going, well, no, this is a company page. I can delete comments on my Facebook post for my company. When somebody posts something that's derogatory or inflammatory or flat out wrong or mean, I have a full right to delete those comments. But Kickstarter won't let me do that on my Kickstarter page, which I'm trying to make money. They're trying to make money. They don't want people's negative comments on these things anyway. And a lot of times these negative comments are a lot of these comments are not entirely, like, for me, one thing I find frustrating is people posting on a public comment thread, like for one of my Kickstarters, and say, I didn't get my rewards. And then they're like, you could have just messaged me privately. Why do you have to make that public? Do you think, because the thing is, if it's a situation where you've sent me a message and I haven't responded to you, and then you make it public so people know that I'm not answering. But no, I literally, my response time for a message is usually within 5 minutes. And I generally have a very good communication, but the number of times people have posted saying, I haven't got rewards. Who do I talk to? And I'm like, me. Just send me a PM. So when I look at the list of things that backers should need to do, and you can add to this, but the first thing is to read the Kickstarter. And you'd be surprised the number of people that just back, even I backed something based on visuals and did not realize later, oh, this is happening. And I've had situations saying, hey, this is not the case, or this is not the case. And I've said, here is the section on the Kickstarter page where I say exactly that. So read the Kickstarter page. And I do mean read all the way through. Don't just see the cool minis and then buy it. Read through the entire page all the way to risks and obligations, which is the last thing there. Read the whole thing. Fully understand who the company is and know the rewards and the risks and challenges and the timetable, right? And, if the timetable is a really long time, chances are it means they're being honest with you. And that's something that's very important. Read the Kickstarter page. Know what you're getting into. The second thing is that 100%, 99.99999% of all crowdfunding employ some type of third-party system to coordinate backer rewards. It could be GameFound, BackerKit, CrowdOx used to be available, but BackerKit bought them. Kickstarter is doing it themselves now because they realize that they're leaving money on the table, because every single, especially in the gaming industry, every single company uses a third-party administration group that coordinates backers and allows you to sell add-ons, finalize your address, pay for shipping properly, because you can't really pay for shipping properly with Kickstarter. You can only make guesses. And close your pledge. And that's what they always say. And so in every campaign, there's going to be a mention for closing your pledge. We use BackerKit, GameFound, or what have you. You then get emails. And I'm not even going to get to that. I'm not going to get to that. That's like step 3. Step 2 is read the updates. Because a good campaign is going to post usually every 48 hours, sometimes 72. The bad campaigns are the ones that post once a week, because no, keep your backers aware of what's happening. Stretch goals are crossing. Be aware of what they're saying. The number of times I've had situations where people have said, hey, why is this the way it is? And I said, please read update number 5 dated 6 months ago, because the answer is there. Now, I'm not saying that you have to click on the view on Kickstarter, see the update, and then heart the comment. But the number, even I do it. I see an update. I'll browse through it quickly, see if it's anything of interest, and then I'll move on. But at least acknowledge it. The number of times people have just ignored Kickstarter. And this guy who posted, who complained about the fact he didn't get rewards, fully admitted that he never read the updates. And on top of that, if you don't receive updates on a regular basis, that's also on you. Check your spam folder, check your filter, and find out where those emails are. Then you have the backer kit or crowdfunding administration side, the coordination, I'm not even talking about fulfillment. We're talking about closing your pledge manager. Go through it, finalize your address, and close that pledge. Jamie Stegmaier was talking about in our interview where he was getting people asking for their viticulture rewards 3 years after the campaign closed, because they were so oblivious. They didn't check any messages. They didn't bother closing the pledge, and they completely forgot the campaign even existed. Every few months, I go through Kickstarter and I check through all my unfulfilled pledges, going, "Oh, I got that. I'm still waiting." You have an obligation. It's your money. You have an obligation to make sure that your money is being used wisely. Look into that pledge and close it. Get your address and check your posts. There is one person in Affinity after all this time, because you have people that have unfulfilled pledges. BackerKit will tell you how many, and it could be anywhere from 20, 30, 100, and that number will eventually go down as backers get winded they have to close their pledge, and then they go and close it. And then after a while, once I started shipping rewards, I went to my pledge manager, saw those people, and checked how many had invested money. The ones that did not, like they were $1 or less, I just canceled their pledge. I'm never getting their money. They're not upping the rewards because they're not getting any rewards. If you pay for under $5, you're not getting any rewards. You literally pledged access to Pledge Manager, and you're not using the Pledge Manager because it's closed. So you're not getting anything. So I deleted those kids. This left one person that has spent cash money for a pledge he's not getting. And you can see, and the funny people, and people will tell me, I've gotten emails from people saying, I didn't receive any emails. I can then screen cap that little log on BackerKit that tells you the 17 emails and exactly when you got them. Because we are generally sending out quests. Hey, by the way, complete your pledge. For Amethyst, which is running now, I have 47 people that haven't closed their pledge. The products are live. Like it's going to be months before we ship, so I'm not terribly concerned. But once a month, or sometimes once a week, I will send them reminders. So when somebody says, I didn't get a post to close my pledge, I was like, yes, you did. In fact, you've got about a dozen of them. So when somebody says they didn't close their pledge and didn't get rewards, that's not on the company. That's on you. Know what you're getting into. Know what you're accessing. Close your pledge, right? And then on top of that, then the product goes to distribution. Be aware of how long that takes.
Yes.
If they say, like I have 2 reward tiers. I have digital rewards and physical tiers, which role-playing games do, but board games don't. Board games, I have to get physical rewards, but digital, I'll often say the rewards will be delivered by this date, and that's the date when rewards start going out. But with Affinity, it was when the digital books were ready, because for about 40% of backers, that was it for them. They got the rewards. The Kickstarter was done for them because they only wanted digital rewards. So I'm not going to say I'm delivering this. I'm not saying this date I'm giving you is for when the Kickstarter is closed. This is the date I'm delivering the digital rewards, which everybody gets. Some people have more rewards that will come down later, but you have people that will get angry saying you have not delivered these on time. And someone says, you have had digital rewards for the last 4 months. It's going to take time. It takes 3 months just to process physical production. It takes another month to get it coordinated to ship. It takes a month to ship. And then you're looking at a month to break down and have distribution handle it. And then it takes another month and a half to ship all these things out. So yeah, it is a process, and it's a long process. So you have to be understanding that you're going to have to wait. With role-playing games, you can get that PDF right away, and so you can still play the game and then eventually get your physical rewards down the pipe. But I was getting people, one person in particular, who said they would never back anything of mine because specifically distribution took too long. And remember, this has nothing to do with me. This has something to do with a third-party company.
Well, but the thing is, but wait a second, it's not even got to do with a third-party company. It is to do with the fact that things take time to get organized, shipped, packed and shipped. So to complain about that is completely ridiculous. And, that's the reason why when I have done crowdfundings in the past, regardless of the platform, I've only done 2 of them that require me to print and ship. After that, everything's been in print on demand. Enough. I don't want to deal with that sort of thing. I send you the code. If you don't get the code for whatever reason, I'm quite happy to send you another one because it's free for me to do it and it doesn't take that much time. And you order it, you pay for the shipping, you pay for the printing, and that's it. I don't want to know anything else. That's
That does bring up something else though, and that is the way BackerKit handles their rewards. So there are 2 types of rewards that we just mentioned, digital and physical. The way digital works, especially if you work through DriveThruRPG, there's one way of doing it, a primary way of doing it. Actually, there's 2. One is to feed all those emails into DriveThruRPG, which will then send out the coupon codes to you.
Right.
The issue with that is that if you have asked for BackerKit, if you've asked DriveThruRPG to not send you emails, they will not send them to you. So I have about 7,000 people on a mailing list. I have about 3,000 people on top of that, so about 10,000 total, 3,000 that do not want to receive emails from me because they don't want to receive emails from anybody. They don't want to get considered spam, which means they're not privy to some of these complimentary items. Somebody has said, hey, I can't, what about these files and these files and these files? And I said, have you gone to DriveThruRPG and checked your My Downloads? And they're like, no, why would I? It goes, because Drive-Thru RPG would have told you had these. And so the other thing to do with people is remember that the internet will not hand you things on a silver platter. There's no butler that's kind of come to your house specifically to show you how these things work. It is a buffet. You need to get up with your plate to get these things sometimes, which means in the case of BackerKit crowd or any form of crowdfunding, but BackerKit specifically, the other way to do it, the way I do it, is that I put those coupon codes and I put them into BackerKit's digital rewards. So the moment you close your pledge, which is another thing, the moment you close your pledge, it says you have access to these digital rewards. Now, some of them may be files or Google directories, or in the case of most of them, Drive-Thru RPG PDF or print-on-demand codes. You then refer to that. But the number of times I've gotten emails from people saying, I haven't gotten my digital rewards, and I say, they've been sitting on your BackerKit account for the last 6 months. I had somebody coming in saying that they did not get their digital rewards for Affinity, and how can I get them? I say, you need to go to your download directory from BackerKit because it's been there for 10 months. And they said, oh, I did not know that. And the answer to the question is, I want to say, you did know that. We told you that that's where those were. And I'm very clear in all my emails because I know I'm dealing with people who are new at Kickstarter. Some of them are new at distribution. So I tell them, I show screenshots with arrows going, here is exactly where my download tab is. But the funny thing is, the same people who ask these questions are the same people who are not reading the updates, so they don't get that information. Well, so that's where I tell people, like, you are under an obligation to do your part. You are investing in the company.
Yeah.
It does not mean that we are going to call you up on the phone to personally walk you through distribution. You have a responsibility on your end.
Okay, I think because this has happened to me more than once, but then not as much anymore because of taxation and shipping, which has become completely stupid over the last few years. But I have back hundreds of projects, and I understand that sometimes life gets in the way, or you simply just forget about the project, and you forget it's there. I, as you do, I go through my projects from time to time and say, oh, this one I haven't got yet, and then I take a look at the updates, see if there is anything new, see if I have missed anything at all. And sometimes it happens that I have missed an email because I just...
Or in some cases, 12.
Correct. that is true. It does happen. So it is as simple as going to the person and saying, hey, look, which I've done recently to somebody, and say, I haven't received this. I'm looking everywhere and I haven't got it. Is there a chance to get this? And if there isn't, don't worry, because this is on me.
Yeah,
I wasn't alert at the time. That's on me.
But that's the thing that I'm trying to tell people. When someone says, "Hey, how do I get these rewards?" and I am trying to tell those people, beyond the fact that we are more than happy to help you out, like we are here to help. But the number of times we get emails, I want to say to people is like, look, I understand some of you are confused, but you have to be able to help yourself. Right? Like my mother will call me up because she can't send her an email, but she's 84 years old. I don't have 84-year-old gamers. I might, but I don't think so. But what I'm saying is the fact that if someone says, hey, oh, right, there's this Affinity game, and then immediately go to the comments and say, I haven't gotten my rewards, without going, maybe I should check my email. Maybe I should do a search. Maybe I should check my spam folder. Maybe I should check out BackerKit and see if it's there. Maybe the answers are there before I make a public post that could potentially create a negative atmosphere because someone's thinking, "Hey, this guy didn't get rewards. Are we not getting rewards? Is this guy giving us a scam? Is this a scam?" I literally had people accuse me of scamming people, scamming them. It's like this. You haven't sent out your physical words. This is feeling like a scam. I go, it would be a weird scam to spend all the money on a digital game that you have in your hands and think it's a scam because you don't have the physical book. If I didn't send out any rewards at all, yeah, I'm a scam. But to get all the rewards except the physical book, which is the physical version of a digital book, it would feel really weird of me to have not gone that extra step. And for me, it's one of those situations where I say, put a modicum of effort. If you're going to do crowdfunding, read the Kickstarter, know what they're doing, read the emails. You're going to get emails from both Kickstarter and BackerKit. Yes. So if you're not getting them from anyone, that's a bit on you. That means you have decided, no, this is spam. I don't want to see this message. and then don't get angry when you don't get the message because it's been dumped into your spam folder.
Good. Okay. What's the next one?
Will be best practices.
Yeah.
That was
I have some.
so and then the final one would be obviously when you get your rewards, feel free to boast. Show if you like it, show it off. I've been telling all my backers, I've been making jokes. Someone says, I got my rewards, and I say proof of life, because I want pics, I want stuff, I want video, I want people to show off. For Affinity, there's 100 luxury books that are numbered, and I was like, I want to know who has number one, and people have been sending me images of theirs, and finally, a guy came back and said, hey, this is mine. I was like, you got number one. He's like, I thought you sent me number one. I'm like, no, I didn't. You got number one. And the reason why he thought I sent him number one is that he also happens to be one of my most loyal backers. Like, he has dumped probably $1,000 on me on every Kickstarter. So I thought maybe you like me. I go, I do like you, and I'm super happy you got number one, but that was a fluke. But if anybody were to get it, I'm glad you got it. But I like having that engagement. So my last one on my list is to engage and feel free to praise. And like I said, I comment about the fact that not enough people post positive reviews. Angry sells the day, which is the reason why when you see a game book or a book, anything on sites, you'll see negative reviews because negativity drives. And I tell people, like you said, when you're praised of the Blade Runner game, go out and post those reviews. If you like it, praise it. Tell people you like it. And that helps. I mean, it's a shot in the arm of confidence. We love it. And it shows you that you are appreciative that this Kickstarter campaign succeeded.
Yes.
So that was my list.
Okay, I have a couple more things that I think are best practices. Firstly, don't be an asshole to the creators. Okay, really, seriously, it doesn't work. If you think that addressing a creator with abuse and bad faith is going to incentivize or motivate them to get you your reward quicker, I'm sorry, you're wrong. It doesn't work like that. The old adage, you catch more flies with honey than with vinegar, is true. So, if you are unpleasant to a creator, you may be getting your reward, but not because they want to give it to you, but because they want to shut you up. It just doesn't work. We need to understand that behind every project there is a human being, or more than one human being. It doesn't matter how large the project is. So seriously, even if you think that, well, firstly, there are very, 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 very few truly large companies within the role-playing or the board game arena. Most are small by any stretch of the imagination. So people are there. Being unpleasant to them is not going to help the overall project. It's not going to help you get what you want. So just play nice. Simple as that. Play nice. And another best practice that I try to exercise myself as often as I can is go in good faith until proven otherwise. Yes, there are some projects that have floundered. I have 5 or 6 of those. The first one that completely was dragged off was Theramid, I think it's called, which is a game I backed about 10 years ago. The only thing that we have received are a few STLs. That's it. No real minis, no game, no absolutely nothing. There was another game, another book that I backed a very, very long time ago, which was a cookery book.
What one?
A cookery book.
Okay.
And the author really had it very hard to manage the project. She had some mental health issues, and she miscalculated how much money she was going to need to get the book. She literally didn't realize how much a food economist was going to be. So she was very honest and said, I really cannot produce this. I am truly sorry. And the money I have already spent in producing what I can, which is not enough. I'm sorry. That was it. That's it. My friend Alisa Faden, I don't know exactly how she pronounces it. Sorry, Alisa. She made an absolutely brilliant 2-player war game, and she was completely and utterly conned by the company that was meant to do the minis for her. So I didn't receive the game that I paid for. I received something that wasn't worth $250. It did not bother me because I knew it wasn't her fault. She was literally done by it. So a little bit of due diligence pays off, and go with good faith. Because very, very often what happens is that people make mistakes, and everybody's entitled to make them. And no, dear backer, you are not perfect. So going after people as if they should be the perfect beings that never get anything wrong is just not healthy for anybody. It just isn't. So don't do that. Do a little bit of due diligence, be understanding, and be kind. It doesn't take much.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
Those are my things. So talking on that, you also wanted to cover another topic, which is alternative crowdfunding platforms. Why do you want to cover that?
Well, it's more about, I guess it's one of those situations where Kickstarter's no longer Kickstarter. It has the risk. It's been forced to adapt, and it's been forced to adapt because competition is starting to offer really, really strong services, which is why now suddenly they're allowing curating comments and so forth. BackerKit is building up their own crowdfunding system, and I'm running a Kickstarter or technically a crowdfunding campaign through BackerKit without Kickstarter. We have GameFound and Indiegogo, and I wanted to give people quick comments about them. Are they working? And the answer is yes, but they have different audiences, and you have to be aware. So forth. Kickstarter is still the dominant. It's still the big guy.
Yep.
And Kickstarter still has the distinction of getting people who go to Kickstarter specifically just to browse. Nobody goes to GameFound to browse. No one goes to BackerKit to browse. People go to Kickstarter to browse. However, that still accounts, unfortunately, in some situations as low as 5% of your backers. So maybe Kickstarter does work, but maybe sometimes it doesn't. And the reason why it's becoming less noteworthy is because Kickstarter campaigns or crowdfunding campaigns are now being defined more and more by their pre-buzz. A lot of times you could launch a game and then organically make a crap ton of money, but now it's don't bother running a 30-day campaign, run a 20-day campaign because you're going to get 90% of your backers in the first 48 hours because you spent 3 months promoting the campaign. And so the way Kickstarters work is different. And so if you have 5,000 people waiting for your campaign to launch, they don't know where it's going to be posted because you've had this mailing list. And that mailing list can be, 15, 20,000. Those people don't really care where it's being crowdfunded. They don't really care that it's going to be on this one or another. Then we have stuff like GameFound and BackerKit themselves. Mm-hmm. BackerKit is new. GameFound is new. I think GameFound is slightly older. Now, from what I've been told and what I've been seeing, GameFound is really good for established IP and for board games and board games with minis. If you run a campaign on GameFound, which is not one of these things, you're rolling dice.
Yes, very much so, and I have an example of that as well. So I will, when you finish, I will say my piece.
Yeah, 5e games, however, for example, have not done very well on GameFound. And that brings us to BackerKit. BackerKit has got the opposite situation. In them, role-playing games have done very well. In fact, they just finished off one that was a 5e campaign that raised $170,000. So that's no slouch. And I've talked with BackerKit, and they agree that GameFound is very, very useful if you're established, if you're a game. It doesn't, because they have an audience that they've earned. but they've earned them through Awaken Realms products, which are big budget miniature board games, and that's their audience. Where BackerKit has a massive mailing list because they've been the pledge manager for tens of thousands of projects. And so they have a huge mailing list, which is their advantage. And these sites are now offering things that Kickstarter doesn't: streaming, curating comments. And so now Kickstarter has to raise the flag. But the other important thing about this, where people might consider doing BackerKit or GameFound, is market share and pricing. When you run a Kickstarter, let's say you make $100,000 exactly. 6%, $6,000 gets eaten up by Kickstarter. They'll take 6%. Then BackerKit will take a certain percentage and a certain percentage off of every late pledge sale. So they do a processing fee, and then they take a cut. And then, of course, you have to pay back any advertising that you've paid. So in some situations, a $100,000 campaign, you could end up with as little as $70,000. You could lose $30,000 on these little fees.
Yep.
Now, when you deal with GameFound or BackerKit, for example, their cut drops from 15 to 10% of late backers, and they don't take the 6% that Kickstarter does, which means you are no longer you're going to take more money for yourself because they are now running the system. And because they want to squeeze from Kickstarter, they're not going to impose the 6% Kickstarter fee because they're getting money from you through the BackerKit system. GameFound, I don't know what their policy is, but I imagine it's similar to the extent that they're trying to undercut Kickstarter offering that better deal. So if you're worried that you're going to lose 10% of your market by going through one of these instead of going through Kickstarter, remember that Kickstarter is going to take 6%. Maybe it'll even itself out in the end. And if you make $100,000, suddenly you're getting $90,000 or $95,000 instead of $70,000 because BackerKit handled every aspect. Because you can do that. Kickstarter will handle advertising, campaign, advertising, run the campaign, and then they'll run on top of that, they'll run the pledge manager. And because they're doing everything, their overall costs significantly decrease for you instead of 3 different companies, Facebook advertising, all this picking it up. So I'm running my next campaign off of them, and that will be the huge test. Will they be as good as Kickstarter? No. The downside is that people on Kickstarter well, it's very false of you to say.
That's truth.
That was basically it. That the worry is how much will I have lost going through BackerKit over going to Kickstarter? But that now it's on to you.
I don't know how much, but I don't think it will be as much for 2 reasons. It doesn't matter how large the mailing list is. There are 2 things that BackerKit has against them. One is there's still the perception that BackerKit is the pledge manager for Kickstarter. I still think about them that way. I don't go to BackerKit looking for cool projects to back. I just don't think about them that way. And secondly, I don't think that people are going to associate that they already have an account with BackerKit, and they're going to think that they have to make yet another account. And believe it or not, having to make a new account on a new website is one of the biggest deterrents that people have when backing projects online. They just don't like doing it.
Yeah.
What is the point? So, for the record, I have used multiple online crowdfunding platforms over the years. I have used Kickstarter for several projects. I have used Indiegogo once, never again. I've used Ulule, Beverkami, and Game On Tabletop. Those are the 5 platforms I have used. By far, the most efficient has been Kickstarter. By miles, the best platform is Game On Tabletop. By a mile. Their system is fantastic, and I haven't used it for a couple of years. I bet that now is a lot better because they allow you to flag people as trolls. So it's not just that you can flag them as, their comments, but you literally flag them as a troll. Their pledge is cancelled. They cannot pledge again. And their account is flagged, which is brilliant. You have specific tools created to measure the cost of shipping, and you can fulfill digital rewards, whether they are PDFs, STLs, images, or whatever, through their own platform for free. So seriously, Game on Tabletop is by far the best platform from that point of view.
Yeah.
So why do I think Kickstarter is still the safest bet? I'll give you an example of why I don't think the GameFound works for, as you were saying, for projects that are not very well established IPs. I have my friend Ren. He's recently run on GameFound the campaign for Tolerance. It's a small trick-taking card game. He's managed to get 146 backers. That is 4,231 euros. Even though that is more than twice what he was asking for, I bet you anything that that is about half what he would have got in Kickstarter. And one of the reasons he went for GameFound, it was for its huge mailing list. GameFound claims to have a 50,000 people mailing list.
That's it?
So
that's low. That's low to me.
Let's say that is the case. A mailing list should have, let's say, a 2% return.
Yeah.
Let's say that out of that 2% return, you're going to get a 10% backing.
Yeah.
Ren should have got way more than 146 backers.
Yeah.
Way more. I haven't had a project that didn't get over 200 backers, even with nobody knowing me. No one at all. Literally going on to Kickstarter, going on to Game on Tabletop, and I've always managed to get more than twice what I was asking for. Always. Right. So, I'm sorry, but GameFound doesn't work. As you said, unless you have a very big game, in which case, that's it. Big Y, I think that
if you're Polish, you'll do very well on GameFound.
Maybe. I don't know. I cannot attest that because Ren is Finnish and his hasn't done as good or as well as he could have done. So
yeah, we know like Awakened Realms, and Awakened Realms is the companies that Awakened Realms has worked with. For example, Frostpunk, which was not published by Awakened Realms but published by another company out of Poland that worked with Awakened Realms. They helped do this War of Mine. They did very well with their product. And so once again, if like for example, does Elden Ring do as much money? Because one of those situations for me is that I think Elden Ring makes the same amount of money regardless of which crowdfunding platform they use. Well, not Indiegogo, but if they used BackerKit, GameFound, or Kickstarter, they're making the same amount of money. I can't see them making a significantly less amount of money if they had done with one of the other alternative services.
Probably yes, because the IP is so huge. So you're going to have a captive audience in there. But otherwise, no, you wouldn't make as much money. I'm sorry. So why? Because in brackets, trust, in the sense of I'm going to go to Kickstarter to find a cool project to back, that people put on Kickstarter is ginormous, truly ginormous. And giving another platform a chance is a huge, huge risk. I have my friend Federico Sons, who does Nibiru and recently started another project, who would love to be able to go onto a different platform, but He knows that he is going to get a reach in Kickstarter that he's not going to get on another platform. Could you get it in another platform? Perhaps. But then you would have to do a huge amount of prep work that is very expensive and still have no guarantee.
Yeah, that's very discouraging because
Correct.
I like BackerKit's sales pitch. I like the fact that they don't charge the 6% that Kickstarter does. So there's a part of me that feels that, and the funny thing is that I'm looking in my head, trying to remember now how many followers I had on the Kickstarter page for Amethyst and how many people were following it on the BackerKit page. I cannot remember which number was higher. And obviously, you might have had people that had in the same list. But once again, BackerKit's mailing list should be enormous. The fact that GameFound says 50,000, that actually feels low to me. If I have 7,000 people and I'm one little dude, they should have more than 50.
But I'm just going to ask a disclaimer. That is the name I have in my head. I may be wrong, okay? But that's the name. That's the number I have in my head. The point between Kickstarter and BackerKit, are you going to get only 6% fewer backers in BackerKit?
Well, there's no way of knowing.
Exactly, that is the thing, because if you're going to get less, so fewer than 6% or less than 6% less fewer customers in BackerKit, then you're better off in Kickstarter. That's it.
Yeah.
So that is a tricky bit. And the thing is, there are ways of using another crowdfunding platform, but you have to do the work. I keep saying to people, do your main campaign in Kickstarter and then go on to Game on Tabletop and create a secondary campaign that you can leave running until your product is produced, so you can ship it. So you can use it as some sort of pre-sale campaign going on and on and on and on that you can keep talking about all the time. Yes, the bulk of the people perhaps will be on Kickstarter, but if you can get another 10%, 20%, 30% of the people that backed on Kickstarter on Game on Tabletop, you have the 30% of people there. And if Game on Tabletop is going to allow you to do some of the fulfillment for free, like all the digital files, then you've got that. Yes, you're going to have to do an extra bit of work, but if you do that, you're going to be better off. It's one way to promote different platforms and stepping away a little bit from Kickstarter, so you can diversify a little bit.
That's the other thing you brought up, though. Kickstarter has a policy that you cannot relist an identical product, meaning that if you designed a game like Naramata, if I designed Naramata, I couldn't run a second campaign of Naramata on Kickstarter. I have to offer something new. And that's why people do the expansions. They do little, and even if the expansion's tiny, they'll do it so they can do a reprint. We see this a lot. Most of these other guys don't have this. So it is entirely possible, as you just said, because you're going to see what the only thing I was going to add, the fact that you can actually run a Kickstarter and then run a Game on Tabletop or a BackerKit campaign later. And I have been tempted about relaunching my Kickstarter campaigns back off of that, and to see whether or not there would be, whether or not we would be able to generate that type of income. And it's something that's very interesting, and it's just who gets your money first. And I was convinced to do BackerKit, and now you're making me question whether I should do that or not.
It really pains me to say this, because I would like people to try different platforms, because I would like to stop the monopoly that Kickstarter has. Kickstarter has done a few dick moves that I dislike. Their attempt to go in crypto a little while ago, that I think they have parked completely. They decided they weren't going to
I haven't heard them talk about any of that,
anymore. But maybe they're doing it and we are not realizing. I don't know that. You know how they treated their employees when they wanted to unionize?
Nice. Yes, I remember that.
That was a shitty move as well. And I don't know, just I don't like monopolies in general. So I would like people to try,
Yeah.
and also because I know some, for instance, in Game on Tabletop, I know the people behind the company personally, and I know what good people they are. So I want them to succeed. I want people I would like to call friends some days to succeed and do fantastically well. So I would love people to try new ones. But the fact is, Kickstarter has a reach and a pool that thus far no other company has. That's the way it goes. It's simple as that. So I would always recommend go first to Kickstarter and then choose the best platform that will give you the best service to deliver whatever it is you have to deliver and finish the project there. Don't
Yeah.
rely just on one single tool. Why when you have plenty at your disposal? And
But
right
that's
now,
and that's the thing though, is that, and this is where we're torn. You don't want Kickstarter to have a monopoly. You don't want them to be the only player in the field. But then you say you'd be stupid not to dump all of your campaigns on Kickstarter, in effect, perpetrating that unfortunate monopoly that they continue to have.
okay.
It's
Firstly, I wouldn't say it would be stupid you not to do that. I would never say
yeah.
that, because
Okay.
it is not stupid not to do it, but you have to do it in the know that the chances are you're not going to make as much money. Simple
Yeah.
as that. Is that stupid? Well, not necessarily. If you can afford it, then not necessarily. However, I am going to be a little bit more um, a bit more blunt with this. Is you would be stupid not to try more than one platform to promote the same project. Limiting yourself to just one platform is ridiculous because you don't have to do it. You don't have to just stick with Kickstarter when you can do it here and then continue. And if you
Yeah.
continue on another platform, if people realize little by little that going to another platform is not difficult, you get a better service, and you still get your product, maybe not the next one, but perhaps the one project after the next one, you will be able to do in your new platform because you will have plenty of people who will be able to support that project for you. So it is,
Yeah.
I think you cannot change the market from one project to the next. It has to be done gradually. It has to be done through generations of projects. But unless somehow you start to do it, it is never going to happen. And doing it cold turkey is, I just don't think it's going to give you as much money. I may be
Yeah.
wrong, but I don't think it's going to work. I wish we had some people like Chris Birch or Jamie Stegmeyer here to answer that, to chime in, since they are two super successful crowdfunders that know their mustard. But
Yeah,
that's my
that being
impression.
said, with Jamie, the market was different. He doesn't do Kickstarter anymore, so I wonder how much the market has changed because he doesn't do Kickstarter anymore. He might have a different opinion than someone who is on the market now. I think it would be interesting to bring on somebody from GameFound or from BackerKit and have them talk about why they think their system is competitive.
That wouldn't be a bad idea. Maybe we should reach out to them and see what we can get. I know that we can get people from Game on Tabletop. I've already had them and spoken with them many times.
Hmm.
But then I tend to be a walking, advert for Game on Tabletop because I absolutely adore them. So,
Yeah, senior jacket.
so, and I've never been paid any commission from them, by the way. I just think they're absolutely wonderful people, and I totally adore them. I wish I spoke to them and about
Well,
them
one of the
more
things I'm
often.
doing with having a partner is that for me, when I finish a Kickstarter, I want to move directly into content creation.
Mhm.
And the idea of having a partner is that he gets to do these campaigns. And so with my partner, we can hopefully run these duplicate campaigns on other platforms and try to raise more money.
I think that would be wise. Seriously, I reckon that would work very, very well indeed. So I would encourage anyone to look. But even if you're uncertain, people listening to this, please just take a look at other platforms. Just look into them, even if it is to familiarize yourself with the interface and with the features that they have on offer. Even if you don't do the project on those platforms in the end, just take a look. You may be, looking at something and thinking, that is exactly the tool I need. Whether it is GameFound or Game on Tabletop or Ulule or whatever, they all have unique selling points. Take a look at them. It is worth it as an experience. So that's my take on crowdfunding.
Yeah.
So,
well, there you go. 90 minutes.
I think we are done for today, haven't we? Because it's we've been going on live for an hour and a half. So I wonder what people think, since nobody came to watch us tonight.
Well, we had people, a few people watching.
Oh,
live,
there's somebody watching.
No...
Hello. Oh, hi, you people watching. I love you. I don't know who you are, but I bet you're absolutely wonderful. I hope you are.
Don't feel, yeah. Definitely comment some, get some comments going. But yes, it was fun. And maybe next week we will. Maybe we haven't done an interview in a couple of weeks. Let's do an interview for next week. Let's see if I can. Let's see. I'll ask some people at BackerKit and see if they are willing to come on screen and talk.
That'd be great. That would be absolutely hilarious and fantastic and wonderful. So, humans, in the meantime, thank you very much for being there. Please follow us.
Hey, I was here all the time. Someone just posted.
Oh, it's very hilly.
Exactly. And the chat was interesting.
Yeah, well, he's my childhood friend, so he would say that.
Okay. Well, there you go. See, we had people watching. Yeah. But there you go, folks. Thanks a lot.
Okay, friends. Do feel free to email us, podcast at gmsmagazine.com, which would be great to hear from you. And I promise I will, at some point, I should make you an admin of that email, so you can get emails there as well, and you can reply to those emails as well. That is how much I trust you. I know. Also, GMS Magazine on Twitter and on Facebook as well, and I think also on Kickstarter. Not Kickstarter. Well, Kickstarter as well, but I don't do Kickstarters anymore. I might in the future. Who knows? On TikTok, yes, find me on TikTok. I am hilarious. I think, and you'll think too. And that's it.
And it's Chris from Deus Ex Machina. You can find me at Deus Ex Machina on all social media channels, including Twitter, at least for the time being.
That sounded very ominous.
It's Twitter.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it still exists.
That's true. Humans, good night.